games for gambling purposes.
Wow, bro.
Should ever feel threatened by a mistake he made at work, but in $1 billion.
Whoa, hold up.
Should ever
Former ref says he had 15 to 16 death threats after a controversial call. Okay, bro, I don't think it's that serious to be sending death threats, bro. Yo, what's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. We got the dark truth about NFL referees. Let's check this out.
Game-winning plays. Tackles. And performances.
Jerry Rice.
And franchises. However, behind the game-winning drives and Super Bowl trophies stood the men and women in black and white, capable of changing the destiny of a player and a franchise with the blow of a whistle.
Oh shit, close schools.
Now with the outrage that is continuing to grow over that blow
I still don't understand how the hell you missed this call. Like, honestly, motherfuckers had to have parlay on the game.
The reality of the situation is that he was mugged.
And now they're going to call it again.
Have you ever heard of an NFL
Dean Blandino
approached by somebody about trying to impact a score or a stat line or anything like that in the game?
People were approached.
Huh?
Every sport has a dark side, and that's why I'm launching a new channel all about pro baseball, covering crime.
Shot several hours later, they have identified that person as former Major League Baseball pitcher Danny Serafini.
What the hell?
Paid members of the Chicago White Sox to throw games in the 1919 World Series.
And more. If you guys are interested, click the link in the description below, where I have a brand new video premiering very soon. Thanks so much for all your support, and now let's get back to the video.
Okay.
Referees navigate a minefield of intense pressure as they strive to make split-second decisions that can change the course of a game. From franchise-altering mistakes to the intense scrutiny of passionate fan bases.
And I like, bro, I've heard a lot of mixed emotions about this, bro. Like, I don't think it was this part right here. I think before, like when Juju was breaking, he did tug his jersey a little bit.
Fan bases will navigate the tumultuous terrain where every call carries monumental consequences. As sports betting continues its meteoric rise, whispers of corruption have crept into the realm of officiating. Former NFL Vice President of Officiating, Dean Blandino, dropped a bombshell in an interview with CBS.
Have you ever heard of an NFL official being approached by somebody about trying to impact a score or a stat line or anything like that in the game?
We've had situations and people were approached, and we always told our game officials, because someone sees them and, oh, those are the NFL officials, and then you never know, you just don't know who you're going to come across.
Confirming that referees had been approached about rigging games for gambling purposes.
Wow, bro.
Should ever feel threatened by a mistake he made at work, but in $1 billion.
Whoa, hold up. Former ref says he had 15 to 16 death threats after a controversial call. Okay, bro, I don't think it's that serious to be sending death threats, bro.
But in $1 billion industry like the NFL, the margin for error simply doesn't exist. It can get pretty dark for referees around the NFL, but the results of their mistakes can redirect a franchise entirely too. These are the moments that haunt the NFL and its officials in a career endured under the microscope.
After a controversial call in 1999, an NFL referee for nearly 20 years received death threats and over 200 phone calls. Okay, bro. Niggas just don't have life. Like, bro, niggas do not have a life. Oh, I remember this when they called it an incomplete pass.
Was on the receiving end of death threats and over 200 calls after making a controversial call in the dying moments of the 1999 NFC Championship game. Trailing by 11 points, the Buccaneers were in the hunt for the go-ahead score with under a minute left on the clock. They appeared to make a big step towards doing just that.
I think the Rams went to the Super Bowl after that.
Delivered a 12-yard completion to wide receiver Burt Emanuel on 2nd and 23. Upon the advice of his replay official, Carollo took a longer look at the catch and decided that it should be voided on account of the player not having control of the ball.
He did. He did have control. He had firm control. That ball did not come loose whatsoever. Nigga, bro, I'm storming the field if I'm a coach, gang.
Hit the ground, and that by rule, you cannot use the ground or have assistance from the ground to make a catch. The decision to void the catch stopped the Buccaneers in their tracks and ultimately took away any chance of winning the game. Although it is worth noting that allowing the catch to be completed would also not have guaranteed them winning the game. Of course, fans who were distraught at having lost the NFC Championship game gladly latched on to Bill Carollo as public enemy number one. Bill Carollo found himself in a terrible situation where his professional duties collided with his personal life. He was on the receiving end of death threats and endless calls to his enlisted phone number, even forcing him to take his children out of school. While
oh shit!
Outcome to him,
yo!
Carollo's case highlighted the complexities referees face. Despite technically
not the kids,
Carollo bore the brunt of fan frustration. The subsequent rule change by the NFL acknowledged the ambiguity in the laws and the impact on teams like Tampa Bay, offering insight into the difficult position referees navigate amidst the fervor of professional football.
Oh yeah, this should have been interception, bro. Like, come on now, how is this not an interception? Bro, Jennings had full control of this ball.
A similar incident happened just over a decade later, in which a replacement referee named Lance Easley came under.
Bro, Golden Tate thought he did something right there.
Hail Mary. Easley wasn't even.
Nigga, he practically just took your fucking lunch money, my nigga. Hey, come on now.
But a dispute between the officials union and the NFL had resulted in a lockout.
Give Bill Belichick. Hey, bro, I would have crashed out too, Bill. I don't blame him.
More magnified than the brutal end to this game. The game in question took place under the bright lights of Monday Night Football, pitching the Seattle Seahawks against the Green Bay Packers. Trailing by 5 points, the Seahawks' chances of winning looked slim as they faced a 4th and 10 from the Green Bay 34-yard line, and just 8 seconds left on the clock. As the clock ticked over to 0, Russell Wilson launched an ambitious pass into a crowded end zone. Several players had a chance to grab the ball, with Packers safety MD Jennings getting the best look. Jennings got both hands on the ball, but not before Seahawks receiver Golden Tate also managed to plant a hand on it. Whilst Jennings appeared to have wrapped both arms around the ball, and
he had his chest on it too, gang.
Tate's presence in the pile added enough confusion.
Nah, we would have fought. I swear. We would have been fighting after that game.
Both replacement officials, standing in amidst the union struggle, stood over the ball and took a second to make up their minds. Then at the exact same time, Easley signaled for a touchdown and the other signaled for a stoppage of the clock. Easley's touchdown signal was the official call on the field, which meant there had to be clear evidence that it wasn't a touchdown for it to be overruled. The video ref decided that there was no clear evidence, meaning the play stood and the Seahawks won the game.
That's actually
in that
crazy.
High-pressure scenario, Lance Easley made a mistake. His decision to award the touchdown essentially signaled that he had seen sufficient evidence to do so, resulting in that being the call on the field. Anyone looking back at this footage can see that such sufficient evidence surely didn't exist. For his mistake, the Packers lost the game, but Easley paid a bigger price. Easley faced severe consequences for his error, enduring a relentless barrage of scrutiny, including journalists digging through his trash, death threats, and phone calls that led to a battle with depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. His personal life crumbled, resulting in a split from his wife.
Hey, bro,
years.
This is what, like, bro, you kind of brought that on yourself, bro. I'm not saying that, you know what I'm saying, sending death threats and shit is, you know what I'm saying, a good thing and shit like that, but bro, how do you not call a fucking interception right there? Like, honestly, yeah.
From his job. Just like Carollo, the mistakes made on the football field had carried over into his personal life in devastating fashion, changing his life forever.
Hey, man. Hope he's doing better, though. The headlinesman controversy also was involved in last week's controversy. Consequently, it happened to be Mr. Bergman. Wait, what?
And it's not just fans who can apply the pressure. In 1975, Jerry Bergman landed in the crosshairs of Buffalo Bills owner Ralph Wilson after the ref made a big call in the Bills game against division rivals Miami Dolphins. The incident stemmed from a fumble by Dolphins player Mercury Morris, who had been upended and let go of the ball upon landing on his head. The ball was recovered by a Buffalo player and returned into Miami's half. Much to the dismay of Wilson's Bills, Bergman overruled the fumble on account of the Dolphins player being technically down by contact at the moment that his head hit the turf. The ball was
I don't think the head being down is ruled down.
Thus marking Bergman as the villain of the day. Owner Ralph Wilson came out after the game and demanded the
because that happened to CMC before and they didn't rule him
a
down.
Frustrated fan base who were ready to let rip. Just like Carollo and Easley, Bergman received death threats and even had to get FBI protection. It is important to note that the NFL came out and defended the referee by saying
NFL fans do not be playing, gang.
It's one thing to receive death threats when you make a mistake, but to receive death threats and the wrath of an owner after making the correct decisions shows what an impossible job referees have.
Oh shit, the owner too, gang?
The latest case of violence connected to pro football. Only in this case, it wasn't the players. It was the fans in the stands.
What the officials need to do
Oh yeah, I remember this.
and get control of this game and get control of the fans. They're letting it get out of control.
Referees have thrust themselves into the limelight for all sorts of different reasons, but few got the fans riled up as badly as the infamous Bottlegate game. In 2001, the Jacksonville Jaguars were visiting the Cleveland Browns. Tim Couch and the Browns were 6-6, needing a win to keep their playoff chances alive. Trailing 10-15, Cleveland had the ball and were driving downfield before facing a tough fourth down conversion with the game on the line. Couch dropped back in the pocket before finding receiver Quincy Morgan for a 3-yard completion. The Browns got the 2 yards they needed to keep the drive alive, and fans in the stands were starting to anticipate a late score to give them a desperately needed win. However, 2 plays later, referee Terry McCauley halted the game to announce.
Oh, isn't he analyst now?
Perplexing since the play had already been over and 2 plays had since passed.
Like for Sunday Night Football.
Seemingly impossible. Nevertheless, McCauley explained that the signal from the replay booth to inspect the play had been received before the subsequent snap, rendering the review still a viable option. Enraged, the Browns fans started to launch whatever they could find down onto the field in protest. The retaliation was so disruptive that the game was ended nearly a minute early.
Bro, throwing beer bottles is insane work.
Allowing the Browns fans to continue their riot with an empty field, with referees being battered by beer bottles.
I feel bad for whoever got to clean that shit up.
That was until the league office demanded that the game had to be completed. So both teams and now endangered referees were forced back onto the field to wrap it up. Jacksonville took a couple of minutes. The clock hit 0 and that was all she wrote. The scene was tough for Browns fans, and understandably so, given the confusion.
The fact they made them go back on the field is crazy.
But for those in the stands that day, it didn't soften the blow. One of the most hotly debated officiating calls of all time.
Did Dez catch it?
2014 NFC divisional playoff game between the Dallas Cowboys and Green Bay Packers. With 4 minutes left on the clock and the Cowboys trailing by 5 points, Tony Romo and Dez Bryant appeared to convert a crucial 4th down play to place the ball at the Packers' 1-yard line. Bryant had gone up for an ambitious contested catch and appeared to secure the ball while making a move towards the end zone. As he stretched across the goal line, his hands on the ball made contact with the ground.
Now, bro, now looking at this angle, this actually looks like a catch. Okay, so he catch right there, gets 1 foot down,
his hand
gets the second one down,
ball
makes the move with his 3rd foot right there. This is the 3rd step, which is a football move.
Made contact with the ground, popping the ball loose. The officials initially ruled swinging the game massively in favor of the Cowboys. However, Packers head coach Mike McCarthy challenged the call, in doing so leading to one of the most heated debates the NFL has ever seen, and one that still lingers to this day. Did Dez catch the ball? At the time, the NFL rules stated that a player must maintain control of the ball throughout the process of going to the ground. The decision to overturn the call was huge in the context of the game, sparking outrage amongst Cowboy fans who were watching their season slip away in front of their eyes. They argued that Bryant had caught the ball and that in reaching for the goal line, he was making a football move, which would render it a catch. The fact of the matter is that this was another gray area exposed in the NFL rulebook, and the scrutiny that followed this Dez Bryant incident resulted in yet another rule change. This new rule change came 3 years after the incident and sought to clarify the definition of a catch. In rewriting the rulebook, the NFL Competition Committee also admitted that Bryant's overruled catch would have stood with the new rules in place, not that softened the blow for angry Cowboy fans. In the last 10 years alone, we have seen some shocking misses from referees that have had franchise-altering ramifications. In the playoffs of the 2018 season,
it's probably the biggest blown call of all time.
blatant non-call penalties in NFL history. With only 1 minute and 45 seconds remaining on the clock and the game tied at 20 apiece, the New Orleans Saints found themselves at the Rams' 13-yard line on third. Saints receiver went flying as the ball fell harmlessly out of bounds. Every single person in the building expected to see a yellow flag fly from the line judge. Even Roby Coleman looked sheepish as he turned around to retake his position, only celebrating when he realized no yellow flag had arrived. It was a horrendous non-call from the line judge, depriving the New Orleans Saints of a penalty that would have given them a fresh set of downs and allowed them to drain the clock before kicking the go-ahead field goal. Instead, the Saints had to kick a field goal with over a minute and a half still on the clock, in which the Rams were able to tie the game and eventually win in overtime. As is often the case with egregious mishaps like this, the NFL introduced a new rule as a consequence 1 year later. The new rule dictated that teams could challenge pass interference calls and non-calls, but that was little comfort to a Saints team who had been robbed of a Super Bowl appearance. Such was the blatant nature of the non-call that even fans of other teams hopped on aboard the ref-bashing parade, with high-profile media platforms also covering the debacle. The Rams went on to lose the Super Bowl to Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, much to the relief of many fans who felt it was an injustice that they even got to feature at all. To add insult to injury, the head referee on the day, Bill Vinovich, was named the referee of the following year's Super Bowl. Whilst he was ultimately not responsible for the missed pass interference call, he was the leader of that particular officiating crew, and it just feels wrong that the referee, associated with one of the worst calls in NFL history, gets awarded a Super Bowl appearance immediately afterwards. More recently,
and it's crazy because the refs also get a Super Bowl ring as well.
In 2023, referees of an Eagles and Dolphins matchup were put under the spotlight after calling 10 penalties on Miami, whilst not throwing a single flag on Philadelphia in the entirety of the game. Fans quickly took to social media to point out blatant missed calls in a game where everything inexplicably went in the way of Philadelphia as the home team, and nothing was called in the favor of Miami. Perhaps this was the NFL's twisted way of apologizing to Philadelphia for what happened to them in the closing stages of Super Bowl 57. With the game tied at 35 apiece, and the Chiefs trying to convert a 3rd and 8 from the Eagles' 15-yard line on the field, James Bradbury had been called for holding against Smith-Schuster, giving the Chiefs a fresh set of downs and the ability to run down the clock, setting up a game-winning field goal by Harrison Butker. The flag deprived the Eagles of an opportunity to fight back, and it deprived fans of an exciting finish to one of the best Super Bowls in the history of the NFL. Fox broadcaster Greg Olsen could be heard on commentary expressing his frustration at the call, telling viewers that he didn't love that call. He argued that in this moment of all moments, you have got to let the players play. And he's right.
I understand
to call
that.
A holding penalty and essentially decide the winner of the Super Bowl, it has to be obvious. But this interjection from Carl Scheffer's team turned the spotlight firmly away from the players and onto them. One of the greatest Super Bowl matchups we've seen was brutally spoiled by those in black and white. In the same way the fans used to accuse referees of helping the Patriots in their heyday, this incident fueled plenty of theories about the NFL being rigged in the Chiefs' favor, with the referees blamed as the primary facilitators. Love them or loathe them, the Zebras hold an immense amount of power in the outcome of NFL games. Spectacular moments of magic can be completely undone by the misjudged arrival of a yellow flag, unfairly tilting the game towards an undeserving team. One incorrect decision by a referee can prove devastating in the context of a franchise's history, but it can also dictate the flow of money in the ever-growing industry of gambling. Due to the easing of gambling laws all around the US, more and more people are entering the world of sports betting. According to the American Gaming Association, approximately 73.5 million American adults were expected to have bet on the 2023 NFL season. That works at around 1 in 4 people in the States. The presence of gambling is clear to see, with the likes of DraftKings and FanDuel constantly popping up as sponsors throughout the world of American sports broadcasting. In 2021, the NFL
Don't forget about Underdog
signed
Fantasy
huge sponsorship deals with DraftKings and 2 other gambling companies. In a world where NFL players were being banned for betting on even college football games, the NFL was getting into bed with the biggest names in the sports betting industry.
Damn, back in 1963 as well.
But money will always win out. Unsurprisingly, the growth in sports betting eventually found its way to officials, with ex-NFL Vice President of Officiating Dean Blandino confirming in an interview with CBS that referees had been approached about rigging games for gambling purposes. It doesn't get much bigger than Tom Brady's infamous tuck rule game. The pivotal incident occurred during the 2001 AFC Divisional Playoff game between the New England Patriots and the Oakland Raiders, which stated that if a quarterback's arm is moving forward when he loses possession of the ball, it is considered an incomplete pass. The call was overturned on the field, and the Patriots went on to tie the game and eventually win in overtime. The tuck rule game, as it was named, instantly became a significant moment in NFL history, triggering Raiders fans' anger at being robbed of the chance to continue on to a Super Bowl run. The anger brought the NFL's rulebook into the limelight, with many pointing to flaws in the definition of the tuck rule. In response to the criticism, NFL owners voted to eliminate the rule, but only 12 years later in 2013, a move that would have done absolutely nothing in consoling Raiders fans who couldn't let go of the injustice of that day. It's moments like these that emphasize how susceptible the NFL would be to corrupt referees. At the end of the day, it is the referee's subjective opinion in a rapidly passing moment that can change the outcome of a game. Despite there being no cases of it
running the ref over
to this point,
despite
there being no cases of it in the pro game up to this point, it is no surprise that
nigga
fans
just
often
speared
jump
the
to
ref.
conclusions that the NFL is rigged or that referees are being paid off. It is just such an easy narrative to spread when looking for someone to blame. Whilst it is unfair to always point the finger at the officials, there are plenty of times when there can be no other culprit to look to. Referees have a long history of messing up, but the record of accountability simply doesn't match up. We have already spoken about Bill Vinovich being awarded to the Super Bowl gig just 1 year after being associated with a flagrant ordeal in New Orleans. But this is not the only example of accountability not entering the equation for referees. When players mess up, they are swarmed by the media and forced to answer questions about what they did and why. Images of Bengals linebacker Joseph Asai delivering a tearful interview in the locker room after conceding a critical penalty in the 2022 season
it was
AFC
blatantly
Championship
obvious.
game come to mind. So it should come as no surprise.
Damn, I just
22 season
not
AFC
realized, bro, one of the
Championship
fucking
game come to
coaches got
mind. So it should
crushed.
come as no surprise that there is a long list of player outbursts when refereeing decisions go against them. After the 2020 season Super Bowl in which the Kansas City Chiefs lost to Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers, defensive tackle Chris Jones pointed his finger at the referees as one of the reasons the Buccaneers were victorious. In an interview with Miles Simmons,
y'all
of
got
Pro Football
blown
Talk,
out again.
Jones said, "Only the referees can call the penalties, so the penalties affect the game 1000%. What can I say? We had a lot of penalties called on us today. In the first half alone, the Chiefs were flagged 8 times for a record-breaking 95 yards, compared to just 4 flags for 39 yards on Tampa Bay all game long." He later went on to argue that he thought refs usually let the guys play in the biggest games of the year, again emphasizing that penalties can change the game. Of course, just a couple of years later, the Chiefs would benefit from the refs' generosity when they called the incredibly soft holding call against James Bradbury on Juju Smith-Schuster. You won't have heard Jones complaining about officials then. Tom Brady's side was on the receiving end of generous officiating again in the 2017
Of course, it's Tom
AFC
Brady, bro.
Championship game. But
Like,
this time,
we're
it
not
was the New England
surprised.
Patriots he was representing, going up against the high-flying Jacksonville Jaguars. During the game in which the Patriots came back from 14-3, down to win by 24 points to 20, New England was flagged just once. It was the fewest penalties called on a playoff team since the 2011 AFC Championship game. Can you guess who the team was then? Correct, New England. Jaguars quarterback AJ Bouye told ESPN after the game, "You all see it. I got players hitting me up in the NFL saying the same thing." He went on to claim that he saw several circumstances where a Patriots player should have been flagged, but the official opted not to call it. Fan theories then picked up even more steam after seeing a referee smiling in the middle of a Patriots touchdown celebration, and another seeming to go out of his way to congratulate Brady after the final whistle. A more vocal critique against refs came from Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce after their narrow divisional round loss in the 2016 season. The Chiefs had appeared to score the game-tying 2-point conversion when a flag appeared and the officials ruled out the play because of an offensive holding call against left tackle Eric Fisher. The call wiped the score off the board and pushed the Chiefs back by 10 yards, making the required 2-point conversion a much harder challenge. Alex Smith's attempt was then batted down by the Steelers, sending them through to the AFC Championship game. Travis Kelce was incensed by the decision, using his post-game press conference to lay into the refs. He called the decision ignorant and said that he felt the official had made the call because he felt bad for James Harrison falling on the ground. Kelsey went on to say that the ref, number 51, shouldn't be able to wear a zebra jersey ever again. He shouldn't even be able to work a Foot Locker. Unsurprisingly,
yo, Kels.
Players can be expected.
Hey, he said he ain't give a fuck. I'm pretty sure the NFL probably fined him for that shit.
But there are also plenty of cases where they are simply pleading for fairness in the game and accountability when it goes wrong. After the Los Angeles Chargers' disastrous 2022 playoff loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Joey Bosa was fined $55,000 for unsportsmanlike
slamming his
conduct
helmet
and for unleashing on the refs after the game. He himself was penalized heavily in the game, but one of these was due to him slamming his helmet on the ground because of what he felt was a missed call on the Jaguars. Bosa told ESPN that he thinks there just needs to be more accountability. He also took accountability for his own actions, and had he left it there, he might have avoided the hefty fine. Instead, he went on to say, I mean, if I say something to them, I get a $40,000 fine. But if they blow a call that ruins an entire team's season, they'll probably be back in the locker room after the game like, haha, got that asshole. Oh yeah, got him 15 yards. What a loser. This felt like a pretty clear example of a player finally letting
both Bosa brothers are fucking hilarious, gang.
And in doing so, he provided his point perfectly. He was given a hefty fine, and the ref slipped off without another look. Clay Matthews was handed a similar fine in 2019 after he took to Twitter to explain that the storyline for the 2019 season continues to be the ref's inability to make the accurate and correct calls week in and week out. He demanded that something must change and singled out Al Riverin, the NFL senior vice president of officiating, as a problem. Despite others also voicing their concerns about the status of officiating in the league, the only action taken was a $12,500 fine for Clay Matthews. For players in the NFL, it is an impossible situation. They stand to lose so much off the back of questionable refereeing decisions, but are simply told to shut up and get on with it when they happen. There is no platform for them to voice their frustrations, and if they do, they are charged with significant fines. The instances of players speaking out, like Matthews and Bosa, are few and far between, but their outbursts are surely a reflection of the general consensus amongst NFL players. Several years have passed since Matthews' Twitter rant, but you would be hard-pressed to find someone who told you that the standard of officiating has stopped being a problem. Too often, the Monday headlines are discussing referee mishaps, and the lack of accountability has to be driving the players mad. In 2023, one ref in particular kept finding the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Brad Allen and his crew first made a name for themselves in a December clash between Kansas City and Green Bay by missing a crystal clear pass interference call against Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Oh yeah, I remember. This was from last year.
The Chiefs receiver had gotten behind.
Yeah, bro. I don't understand how the hell they missed this call.
Inside the 10
I mean, it was blatant, clear as day. Look at that. It was clear as day.
And pulled him to the ground. It was an obvious call for defensive pass interference, and it was not missed by NFL fans.
I guess they kind of made up for the unnecessary roughness play on Mahomes, the previous play.
To criticize Allen's crew. The same fans also picked up on several other calls in that game, including the crew stopping the clock when Valdes-Scantling appeared to be clearly pushed backwards out of bounds with 19 seconds.
It was a lot of
with the Chiefs receiver being
missed calls and a lot of stupid calls in this game.
The clock should have continued to run, but instead it was stopped, massively helping the Chiefs this time around. Allen then found himself at the forefront of more refereeing controversy a month or so later, as he made an inexplicable mistake that cost the Lions a Week 17 victory over the Dallas Cowboys. After scoring a touchdown with 27 seconds remaining to take them up within 1 point, the Lions successfully converted a 2-point conversion to go up by 21-20. It was an ingenious play where offensive tackle Taylor Decker caught the pass in the end zone. However, it was called back after Allen's team ruled that Decker never reported as eligible. The only problem for the officials is that there were a few cameras on them the whole time, and the whole world could see Decker, Dan Skipper, and Penei Sewell all approach Allen before the play. It was clearly a well thought out
that was a big missed call in this game.
To fool the
my computer finna
die. It did just that. Unfortunately for them, Brad Allen's incompetence proved to be
Hold up, give me a second.
of the play,
Okay,
with the
good.
ref claiming after the game that the wrong person reported as eligible. He argued that number 70, Dan Skipper, reported as eligible and not 68.
Oh yeah,
It was
bro,
a
Skipper
remarkable
was
moment
heated
where
after
Red
this
Allen's
game.
negligence was clear to see as the reason why Detroit were deprived of a win. But there were no repercussions for him. Instead, he was given a Week 18 primetime game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, which had playoff implications. Widespread criticism
Not for
from
us.
media personnel and fans
We already
alike
clinched the
believed
one
that
seed.
Allen's crew were downgraded from officiating any playoff games. But the fact that it was external pressure that forced this tells you all you need to know about the attitude towards officials in the NFL. NFL referees and their officiating crews often find themselves cast as the villains, bearing the brunt of fan fury when their calls
as they
lead to
should.
devastating losses for the team. The profession is a lightning rod for controversy, with
And they be
critics
knowing what
arguing
they
that
doing,
referees
too.
too frequently overshadow the players on the field. Yet defending them reveals the intense pressure they face, making split-second decisions under the unforgiving glare of the NFL spotlight. The toll these decisions take on their personal lives cannot be underestimated, as evidenced by the death threats received by Bill Carollo and Lance Easley. However, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Referees grapple with ambiguous rule definitions that sometimes defy logic and unfairly impact a team's success, as seen in infamous moments like the Tuck Rule game and Des Bryant's catch. Yet they often escape the same level of accountability as players and coaches. Instances like Bill Vinovich's return to the Super Bowl after a glaring missed call in the playoffs highlight the need for greater referee accountability and improvement in their decision making. It's a
Yeah.
tough job, but it's
I feel like
time
we
for
need
referees
younger
in the
refs,
NFL
too.
to face more scrutiny and strive for better performance.
Hey man, what do you guys think about the refs screwing over damn near every team in the league except for the Chiefs, for real, for real. But y'all let me know down in the comments below what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on post notifications, get notified whenever I drop another banger video. We're on the road to 300 subs, so I'm gonna get there for more banger NFL content like this. Without further ado, I'm out. Gang!